When we first drove the Nissan GTR, 5 years ago, we expected the used prices to drop below $50,000 at any time.
What we didn't know was Nissan planned to revise the car every single year, along with the price. Now, a new GTR is over $100,000, and an early model is still over $60,000.
Which brings us to this, the Evo. It sets out to do very similar things to the GTR, but for $35,000 to $40,000. So we wanted to know, what happened when Godzilla went to finishing school?
The Nissan GTR, what is there to say about this car that somebody hasn't said already? We wanted to revisit it because it has been 5 years since we drove this car.
At the 2012 model year, that's when most of the changes happened. Certainly the big increase in power. This car is over $100,000 now, so you can no longer claim that it's necessarily a bargain. In comparison, sure, it is.
It's not like it started off bad. You don't get in that 2010 and go, wow, this is just miserable.
If you watched the 2010 GTR review from us, it's the same model year as this car we're driving today. The first thing that I notice when I jump back into the 2010 GTR is how destructive it feels. It feels so much more mechanical than the 2014.
It's interesting to jump into this 2010 right after the 2014 because there actually is a pretty pronounced difference. So with the exception of the carbon fiber wrap on the hood, this is almost exactly like the one we drove 5 years ago. This was year 2 of the GTR in the US. And in year 1, the 09s, they had some issues with their transmissions grenading. So one of the first changes, of course, made was not only to the transmission, but also to the launch control software to essentially keep you from having a warranty problem.
I remember saying the 2010 we drove felt like it could take all kinds of abuse. And it feels like this one has, and it's still unfazed. This owner bought the car in 2012 for $74,000. It's got 43,000 miles on it now, but what's nice to know is that it has held up.
You might be wondering, what is this car doing here? And that's a fair question, but there's a lot of interesting similarities. First off, the Evo, like the GTR, is the halo car of its lineup. And like the GTR, you can make the Evo do physics-defying things. Except the Evo is, at this point, almost a third of the price.
It has one suspension setting, one steering ratio. The engine has one setting as well, and it's frantic. If Red Bull decided to build a car based on the results of its product, it would be the Evo. I did forget how easy it is to drive this car and drive it fast.
Over the years, we've actually sold a good number of Evos to potential buyers, and many of them were lusting after the GTR. Does that mean this is a little GTR? No, it is not. You get in them back to back, and they have very distinctively different personalities.
I know that there's a lot of you that think this car is beautiful, but my question to you, if it didn't have this level of performance, if you didn't know what this car could do, would you think it's beautiful? Let's be honest, it's never going to be invited to the Ferrari or the Lamborghini party. It's purposeful, it's made for one thing, and it does it better than just about every car on the road.
It's kind of like seeing a professional bodybuilder walk into a gym. You notice there's presence there, you understand that's for a purpose. Is it attractive? I don't think universally so. And then there's the people that will argue, well, it looks this way for aerodynamics, it has to look this way. Here's the thing though, there are other cars that have the same aerodynamic properties as this. It doesn't have to look this way.
Now, Nissan has made a few little tweaks and changes. There's a few vents just near the rear exhaust, and the front clip is nearly entirely different. So the LED running lights on the front, a lot more refinement. It's been to finishing school. Now on the inside, nothing has really changed stylistically. There have been some material upgrades. This instrument panel that I called out before, it's now got a carbon fiber texture, so there's more texture breakup to the eye. Certainly the dual tone color is more interesting.
Nissan brags, this is a 4-seat supercar. No, it isn't. This is no more a 4-seat supercar than the 911.
Nothing much has changed stylistically about this car. Really, the only thing that differentiates the 2014 are the rocker panels down low. Other than that, it's the same snorty little beast that you know and love.
This isn't like the GTR where it's been steadily, heavily refined every year. It's almost the exact same car they introduced in '08. I've decided after driving this car a lot that I just don't like this wing. It blocks the grille and the headlights of most of the cars behind you. It takes away a good part of your awareness. I much prefer the MR with the wing delete. This interior is simple. It's not offensive, it's not bad, but it is very cheap for a $40,000 car. Why? Well, of course, it's an upgraded $20,000 car. Unlike the GTR, this does have usable back seats. Yesterday, the owner of the 2010 GTR, his girlfriend fell asleep in the back of the Evo. The only way you're laying down in the back of the GTR is because someone has killed you.
I'm reminded how much I hate the seating position. The seats are great, but the position, terrible. It's an economy car with a powerful engine bolted to it and all-wheel drive. You know where your money went in this car. It's not the styling, it's not the interior quality. It's all about the power and the way it grips the road.
Surprisingly, though, it is almost half the power of the GTR. The turbo, once you get into it, feels more readily available. Now, the GTR has a surge of power and speed this can't even dream about. But the initial tip-in of the throttle on this is very frenetic, it's very urgent. The Evo is just an eager companion. It wants to lead.
I'm also feeling a difference in the sensation of speed in this car. I'm fascinated that even though it's in both cars, it's very easy to go speeds you're not aware of, but I'm feeling it more in this car.
Yeah, that's fast. That's pretty fast. Yeah. Quick. Yeah. Let's not discuss just how quick that was, shall we? Let's just keep that between us. But of course, now we're in a world where lots and lots of things have 400 and 500 horsepower. So this 485, it feels fast, but it doesn't feel jaw-dropping. You do have to step into the 2014 for that power to just kind of shock you again.
This power is phenomenal. This car is explosively quick. It kind of feels like it, because it's doing so much for you.
I'm pretty convinced that if I owned a GTR, it wouldn't be very long before I lost my license. That's not actually because this car stirs me to be an aggressive driver. It's quite the opposite. It's just that it's so easy to go so quick in this car that you almost don't notice.
And with the amount of technology in this car, and the way it shifts gears, and especially upon launch, there's so little drama to it. I was expecting far more. And if you remember the Corvette ZR1 that we drove, we used launch control on that car too, and you kind of had to ride that car and ride it out because it bucked and kicked. The Nissan GTR, the car hooks up and it's gone. Inside the cockpit, there's even less drama.
When you sidestep the brake pedal, you can actually sense the computing going on as it puts power through the clutches and figures itself out and then launches you. This is not an instantaneous thing. It's not like a clutch drop. There is a beat while it thinks it through and defends the transmission and sets you up, and then, yes, you're gone.
So my question is, because this car is so good, because Nissan has democratized this performance for everyone, is it boring? just about anybody can hop in this car and turn fast lap times that they shouldn't be able to do in other cars.
And that is the mandate of this car. The lead engineer has been quoted as saying that he wanted to make a supercar that anyone could drive. A race driver, your grandmother, everyone can drive this as fast as they possibly want.
And after reading Mizuno-san's full interview and understanding where he's coming from, well, he's proven us wrong, how quick this car is and what it can do, and yet I still disagree about the weight.
Now this is a heavy car. The lead engineer would argue that it weighs that much because it weighs the equivalent of an F1 car if you include its downforce, and because of all its weight, that's the reason it sticks to the road so well. I follow the logic, but typically, and here as well, lighter weight sports cars are more fun to throw around.
I don't remember this car feeling that sharp, but then I hopped in the 2010. This car, it's destructive and angry and mechanical. I'm reminded though about how heavy this car is and how much that weight insulates you from that driving experience. As soon as you hop in, it feels sharp, but the longer you drive it, it seems like the car is distancing you from the experience. So to go find it again, you have to go faster and faster, and then you keep finding it. It's very much like a drug addiction. You have to take more drugs to experience the same high.
The 2014 feels flatter, not by much, but it corners a little bit flatter than this 2010 does. They have tweaked the suspension on this car every year it has existed. But I'm still a little surprised that there is this much of a difference in the body roll.
We drive a lot of cars for the show, and generally speaking, both Todd and I remember what a particular car feels like to drive. And so I hopped in this car, and I initially thought all these little things have contributed to a sharper feel. Staggering. Phenomenal. But I feel like I'm having more fun in other cars. Look how hard you can hold that line. It is weight that keeps this car from generating road feel, so you can understand more about what the tires are doing, the angle they're at, apart from the steering wheel. Yes, it's precise, but they're two different things.
This 2014, interestingly enough, when you have it in its very aggressive R setting, it still feels more compliant than the 2010 in its softest setting. That doesn't mean it's any less aggressive. You can actually handle and carve this car better than the 2010, but it soaks up bumps better too. Now I want to be careful here. I don't want to give off the impression at all that the GTR is not fun. It's very fun, but it's fun like a really advanced roller coaster. And what I mean is, a really well-made roller coaster is designed for incredible tolerances and to do the exact same thing over and over hundreds of times a day, and all you are is along for the ride. That is the GTR. It doesn't mean it's not fun, but I actually suspect you could have as much fun in the passenger seat of a fast GTR as you could as the driver. There's very little extra, intangible driver information that's going on here. You just tell it what you want it to do and it sorts it out. There is a very innocuous seeming line in all of the press materials every year of this car that discusses how the car is looking at your steering angle and judging that against the car's angle and applying power to the proper wheel to make sure you hit your steering angle. It's saving your ass proactively. The GTR does it, the Evo does it too. Now, the GTR does it quite a bit better, but I don't think it does it 3 times better. And that is the difference in price.
You know what's the most amazing thing about getting back in the Evo? It's how light it feels to drive. And on paper, it's not that much lighter than the GTR. This car feels nimble, it feels quick, it feels light on its feet and ready to dance in comparison to the GTR.
Part of that is the fact that this has a significantly faster steering rack than the GTR. Turn-in on this car is instantaneous. Because of that, it has a frenetic, light on its feet, kind of dancing on its tiptoes feel. The GTR never has that feeling. And the Evo is based on front-wheel drive architecture. So there's more weight over the front axle, and it has that inherent front-wheel drive tendency for understeer. The way you solve it in the Evo is with your right foot. When you're throwing the Evo down a canyon road, I'm always struck that it feels like that really bad influence friend that is willing to do whatever terrible idea you have. Oh, you want to burn that down? Yeah, let's do that. That sounds fun. This is a hooligan. Dynamically, this is probably 80% as good as the GTR, maybe 90% depending upon what it is you're doing.
This car can almost keep up with the GTR on these roads. Yes, the power, the Nissan will leave it at some point. But I guarantee you, you're having more fun in the Evo. Here's the thing, it's a delight to drive on these roads. In traffic, on the freeway, I hate it. It feels like an economy car, but it dances, it's fast, it's so much fun.
Jumping out of the Evo into the GTR, any version of the GTR, gives you ridiculous Superman quality self-confidence. You just believe you're going to make it. The problem is, it's a car that makes you a better driver because it flatters your ego and not because it taught you anything. It's trying to sort it out for you instead of helping you learn how to do it better. Is that bad? That's for you to decide. But it's definitely what's going on here.
This car is endlessly capable, but the fun part of it is not super high for me. But on the other hand, by its very existence, the GTR has pushed other car manufacturers to be better, to figure it out, to do better with their own recipe. So of course, any of the cars we drive on this show have to be fun.
Well, we're certainly looking for the fun factor of all of them.
Yes.
Whatever we're driving. Look, you can buy a minivan and it will drive you where you need to go, which is why we are not going to cover it on this show. We're going to cover fun.
So not only do stats not equate to the performance of how the car drives, the stats never equate to how fun a car drives.
That's a good point.
It's got to be fun, so that applies to the cars we're driving today. We had to drive the generations of the R35 GTR. We had to know and feel these changes. Nissan has made a lot of changes over the years.
How many changes? It's like everybody at the company, this is their side project. They're just doodling things we can do with the GTR for every single year.
You know what they've also changed, and quite dramatically, is the price. This is a lot more expensive car, and it's not really a bargain anymore. In comparison to other supercars, certainly, but it's not a bargain car.
No, not at all.
By any means. I'm coming away wondering, of the cars we've driven today, both GTRs and the Evo, that is far less money, which is the more fun car to drive?
Ooh, you're making it hard now. Because see, here's the thing. I like this GTR actually a good amount more than that 2010.
Yeah,
I think
I
they
do as well.
refined it in all the right ways. I think it is a better cruiser. I think it is a better car to own. I think it is better worth the money. I think it's more fun on a canyon road. Yet, the Evo is more of a laugh.
Really?
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. This generation and the subsequent generations will continue to improve if that also blows your mind.
The 2010 is great. The 2014 really is that much better. It's a shockingly good car.
I love the Evo. It's fantastic. The 2014 GTR, and probably subsequent variations, is the first GTR I would actually consider owning. 4-star car for me anyway, but I might add that to my garage. I find myself gravitating towards the Evo as well, though.
It's cheaper, it feels cheaper. but it just feels incredibly fun. This is so capable.
It's
in normal situations,
staggeringly
it's
capable.
almost like you're boring it. If the car you're looking for, if fun to you is a car you can chuck down a road, laughing like an insane person, the Evo is actually a little bit more that. The GTR will beat it in every quantifiable way I can think of. The GTR will beat it.
It's going to crush it. Not just beat it, but it's going to crush it.
But it's weird because how is that car not the more fun car?
That's what I'm saying. The stats do not equate to necessarily fun.
Somebody out there is you're already furiously typing. I know you are, you're furiously typing. There is no way, whatever. Okay? Both back to back. Is that as grounded? No. Is it more fun? Yes.
You know, strangely, this is the car I gravitate towards. I jump in the Evo right after driving these heavy GTRs. And suddenly the world is different. I'm suddenly light and nimble, even though on paper it's not. It's not necessarily that much lighter of a car, but I'm kind of gravitating towards this. It's slower. It's definitely can't hang on like the GTRs can. No.
There is no way to be anything but truly floored by the GTR. It is a shockingly good car.
It really is.
It is a complete victory of somebody that set out to make a car that was a world beater that anyone could drive. Done. I don't think it'll be done better.
I agree. I
don't think that makes it the most fun. Begin the comments now.
It's like they've lightly filed the edges down on the 2014 car, but this is so raw, and there's a lot to be appreciated about this.
All the metallic parts of this car just seem a little bit angrier and uncouth than they do in the 2014.
What I come away with is that light feeling of this Evo. It shouldn't feel this way, and I'm surprised by the dramatic difference. And you know what else is dramatic is the price. I like this car, I like it a lot, but I still wouldn't own one. It's just not well-rounded enough for my taste.
The interior materials, the quality of the experience definitely feels like the Evo is half the car of the GTR. It doesn't feel like it's 1/3 the car though. And dynamically, it's almost as good a car.
But the 2014, and probably subsequent generations, is a car I would consider owning. Here's the deal though. There are other cars on that list ahead of it. Give it a drive for yourself. I'm guessing your opinion's gonna change. You might like it more, but there's some things about it that you might go, I didn't really know it would feel like that, because the numbers don't matter anymore. This car can crush. This car is so much faster than just about anything. The numbers don't matter anymore.
Now, if your idea of fun, if what you want in a car is something that just can kill everything off the line, okay, then GTR it is. GTR is the best. But after driving more and more cars, I have to tell you, I look for more than that. And I really prefer a car that talks to me, a car that has a personality. The GTR is really impressive and fun and a little bit sterile.
You know, it's surprising to me that Mitsubishi has discontinued the Evo and come to that business decision, because now, what is it that Mitsubishi builds that is a compelling car? That you would find yourself on a Saturday and think, I'm going to go to the Mitsubishi dealership. Nobody says that anymore.
The GTR does feel bespoke, well, with the exception of its key, which is no different than the key you'd get for a Nissan Sentra. But we're not driving the key.
What are you doing this Saturday? I'm going to the Mitsubishi dealership, said nobody.